Hi there, today's quick tip video focuses on triggering Groove Agent patterns from out in the project window. Using events and MIDI information in the project window to trigger patterns inside of Groove Agent means we're not set with a specific pattern. We can revisit a pattern idea and change it. We're also going to look at using the arranger track to rearrange a project. We've already covered how we can drag and drop these patterns representing different song segments out into the project window. But the one limitation here is that we can't go and change the complexity or intensity or even the patterns at a later date. Let's start off by getting the pencil and drawing in just one bar. Once we've drawn in one bar, we double click with the arrow and open up the key editor. Now on the left hand side, we've got a piano scroll. We want to find the note that corresponds to that first intro pad on the right hand side. There it is. Let's grab our pen and draw in a whole one bar event. I've discussed trigger modes in other videos, but at the moment the trigger is set to hold. So for as long as that note is held, the pattern will play. So we have one bar exactly. Let's continue to build these patterns. I'm grabbing the pencil again, but this time I'm going to draw in 4 bars. Now I go back to my arrow by pressing 1, double click and open up the key editor. Now the first main pad is main 1. And the trigger note for this is C0. So I go over and find C0, and now I draw in an event that lasts for 4 bars. So that means main 1 will now be held for 4 bars. Now we're using that one event to trigger the intro, and the next event to trigger the main 1 pattern. It's a good idea to color code these different events out in the project window. I'm not going to mess around too much with colors, but I'm trying to make mine as similar as possible to the different patterns or song segments over inside of Groove Agent. Copy and pasting an event's easy. You just pick up on the square in the middle right hand side of each event and drag it over to the right. Okay, so that's another pattern that I want to use, so let's repeat the process. Go up, grab the pencil, come down and draw in an event. Once we've done that, go back to the arrow, double click, go over to the left hand side on the piano scroll and find the note that corresponds with the pattern I wish to include. Now it's as simple as grabbing your pen and drawing in the event. Once again, I'm color coding it. I've got 3 main patterns. I think it's time for a fill, which is really easy because I just pick up on the bottom right hand corner of one of the events and drag it to the left. Gives me 1 free bar. Now I get the pencil and draw in another bar. There can only be 1 pattern playing at any point in time, so as soon as I shorten that event with the main pattern and insert the fill in there, the fill's going to take priority. So we're drawing in a trigger note to last 1 bar because that's the length of the fill pattern. We've shortened our main pattern down to 3 bars and inserted a fill on the 4th bar. I'm color coding this so that I know it's a fill. Now I'm going to repeat the process in the next main pattern. The reason why I'm using a 3 bar main pattern and a 1 bar fill is that quite often music tends to work in blocks of 4, 8, 12 or 16. So I'm using a very typical contemporary process. Once again, I'm color coding my fills, so now when I zoom out I can see my intro, my main segments very clearly, and my fills. Now in other videos I've used the drag and drop technique, but what's unique about this particular approach is that now we can go back and highlight a particular pattern and we can change it. I've selected the intro pad and I'm using the performance dial to change in between intros. You'll notice that we don't need to change the trigger note. We're just changing the pattern that is assigned to that 1 pad. Let's go up to the main 1 pad. This is a bit different because we're using the complexity slider. Have a listen. So the further right we get, the more complex the groove becomes. It'd be quite unique to be able to automate complexity changes over that main pattern, but to do it with the mouse wouldn't be entirely accurate. So the easiest way to do it is to right mouse click on the arrow and either add an automation channel or assign to new automation. Now we go back and right mouse click again and say show main 1 complexity automation track. Back out in the project window, we've got a new automation track that represents the complexity on that main 1 pattern. Now we can go and turn on right and use the arrow to draw in complexity changes. I'm putting 2 dots here right next to each other and dragging 1 up, so that's increasing the complexity. Let's repeat the process. Now let's go back to Groove Agent and have a look at the complexity slider. You can use this process to automate pretty much anything inside a Groove Agent. So I'm now repeating the process for intensity. Back in the project window, I've now got 2 automation channels. And I can use my arrow to start drawing in intensity changes. This is a great feature if you're looking to create just a little more dynamics on fills. You can start softer and work your way up louder. Let's go and check out the arranger track. I've clicked on the plus button in the track list and add arranger track. Now I've got my pencil and I'm drawing in exactly the same events that I have up in the Groove Agent track. The arranger track allows us to scramble or reorganize our project at the touch of a button. It's also great for live performance because we can trigger different sections again at the touch of a button. I'm doing the same thing that I did with Groove Agent by color coding these different events. I just find it easier to recognize the difference between an intro, a main pattern, and a fill. I think you get the idea, so I'll leave the color coding there. I now have events over on the left-hand side that represent my events in the project window. I'm selecting one bar, and now I can click on these different events, and at the end of the bar, they'll change. So I can jump anywhere in my pattern at the touch of a button. The arranger track really takes the linear approach out of Cubase. I can also start adding these events up into the arranger chain just by double clicking on them. I've created a new order for these events, and I can also specify how many times these events are played. We can do everything we've just done in the project window in the arranger editor, but we can also do things like rename, create a new chain, duplicate and remove a chain. The flatten feature even allows us to rewrite these arrangement changes to a completely new Cubase project, giving us multiple arrangements of the one project. Back in the project window, I'm adding a new MIDI track. I want to capture the data that we're triggering with Groove Agent on this MIDI track. So I'm assigning the output of Groove Agent to the input of this MIDI track. Now I hit record, and I'm recording the MIDI data. You get the idea. Now to make sure I'm not re-triggering patterns, I'm ensuring my output's set to Groove Agent main and Omni is pressed. We can go back to the project window, click on the drum mat button and select the preset that represents the preset inside of Groove Agent. Double click on the drum editor. Now we have a very clear visual representation of all of the instruments that are included inside of this Simon Phillips Studio drum preset. Hold down Alt or Option to get the drum one, which allows us to enter information. We can also change the velocity and other parameters down in the controller lane. In this video, we've created events to trigger patterns inside of Groove Agent. We've also looked at how we can change those patterns at a later point in time and automate different parameters inside of that pattern. We've had a quick look at how we can use the arranger track to completely reform and save our project, and we've recorded all of the MIDI data onto a new MIDI channel, which we then edited.